My sister's gift was a lawsuit, and my family expects me to lose. I am a 29-year-old man, and I never thought I would be telling this story, but here we are. Growing up, I was always really close to my family. We were not perfect, but we looked out for each other. I was especially protective of my younger sister, who is now 27. We were only 2 years apart, and back then, I thought we would always have each other's backs no matter what happened. When I landed my first real job out of college, I felt like everything was finally coming together. After a few years of saving and living frugally, I bought my first house. It was not a mansion or anything, but it was mine, and I was proud. I decided that year I would host Christmas for the first time. It felt like a milestone worth celebrating. I invited my parents, my sister, some aunts, uncles, and cousins, basically anyone who wanted to come. Everyone showed up in good spirits. The house was filled with food, laughter, kids running around, and the kind of chaos that usually happens when too many family members crowd into a space that is just a little too small. My sister showed up late carrying a huge beautifully wrapped box. She made a big production about it, putting it right under the tree and telling everyone they needed to see me open it when it was time for presents because it was life-changing. After dinner, we all gathered in the living room, and my sister insisted that I open her gift first. She was practically bouncing with excitement. I thought maybe she got me something really meaningful, like a framed picture of us as kids or something connected to our late grandfather who had meant a lot to both of us. When I tore off the wrapping paper and opened the box, there was a manila envelope inside. At first, I thought it might be some sentimental letter or maybe tickets to something fun. I pulled out the papers, started reading, and my heart just dropped. It was a formal notification. She was suing me. The room went completely silent. Someone nervously laughed, thinking it was a joke. My sister just stood there, arms crossed, stone-faced. She confirmed in front of everyone that it was very real. She was suing me over a piece of rural land we had inherited from our grandfather years ago. A piece of land that, for the record, I had been taking care of all by myself, paying property taxes, fixing storm damage, keeping up the fencing, making sure it did not get overtaken by weeds or trespassers. For years, she had shown zero interest. She never visited, never helped, never paid a single dime toward upkeep. And now she was demanding half of the appreciation value because she suddenly realized the land had gone up in worth thanks to some new developments nearby. At first, nobody really knew what to say. My mother started crying quietly. My father just looked down at his hands. Some of my cousins sat there wide-eyed, like they were watching a car crash in slow motion. My parents pulled me aside and begged me to handle it privately so the family would not be torn apart. They told me to be the bigger person, to think about how hard things had been for my sister, to find a way to settle without causing a scene. Meanwhile, my sister stood in the middle of the room accepting hugs and whispering to certain relatives who started shooting me dirty looks. I did not yell. I did not make a scene. I just quietly excused myself and stepped outside. I called a close friend who happens to be a lawyer. He told me not to react emotionally and to get proper representation before doing anything else. He warned me that things like this often get worse before they get better. I stood there in the cold for a long time before finally going back inside and pretending like nothing had happened. Later that night, my sister started posting vague cryptic messages online about betrayal and greed. She did not name me directly, but it was obvious who she meant. Word started spreading through the extended family almost immediately. Distant cousins, old family friends, even people I had not talked to in years began sending me awkward messages, either fishing for gossip or trying to take sides without saying it out loud. My girlfriend stood by me through all of it. She warned me that once lawsuits get involved, family loyalty usually falls apart fast. She was right. It was like a switch flipped. Some people acted like I must have done something terrible for my sister to go this far. Others just quietly stopped inviting me to things. I knew then that this was not going to just blow over. I needed a real lawyer. I needed to document everything, and I needed to accept that this was not a simple sibling argument anymore. It was war. All because I tried to host Christmas and be generous with family. The morning after Christmas, I called my friend again and asked him to officially represent me. He was a seasoned real estate attorney who had handled inheritance disputes before. By noon, he had already reviewed the documents my sister served me. He explained that because I had handled the land's upkeep, paid all taxes, covered repairs, and managed everything for years without her involvement, I had a strong case to defend myself. Before I could even finish processing all that, another letter showed up by courier. It was from my sister's attorney demanding that I immediately agree to a settlement. They claimed I owed her half of the appreciation value and accused me of hiding profits by not informing her how much the land was worth now. My attorney calmly pointed out that their claim was aggressive but not solid, and the best move would be to start compiling every piece of documentation I had. I spent the next 2 days digging through every drawer, folder, and box in my house. I found years' worth of property tax receipts, invoices for roof repairs, fencing, landscaping, and even old emails with the county office where I discussed property maintenance. I took everything to my attorney, who organized it into a timeline showing that I alone had preserved the value of the land while my sister had contributed nothing. My parents showed up at my house without warning a few days later. They brought cookies and smiles, but the conversation turned serious fast. They begged me to find a way to settle this before it ruined the family. They asked if I could just make things right by offering my sister a financial settlement to end the lawsuit quietly. I listened but made no promises. A week later, we had a family-arranged meeting at a local restaurant. They booked a private room. It was me, my parents, my sister, and a few older family friends who had been around since we were kids. The tension was so thick it felt hard to breathe. My sister immediately started accusing me of secretly profiting off the land, claiming I intentionally kept her in the dark to steal her rightful share. She had her fiancé with her, sitting silent at her side. I calmly pulled out my copies of all the records, taxes paid, repair bills, insurance premiums, even photos showing the storm damage I had fixed after a major flood 3 years ago. I laid it all out on the table. The friends present looked increasingly uncomfortable. My sister's face got redder by the second. My mother started crying halfway through, begging me to remember that family is more important than money. My father kept silent, staring at his coffee cup like it had all the answers. I pointed out that it was not about the money. It was about being attacked for something I had done in good faith. I reminded them that my sister had shown no interest in the land for nearly a decade. Then, in the middle of it all, my sister blurted out that she needed the money to help pay for her upcoming wedding. Her dream venue required a huge deposit, and she had been counting on the land's appreciation to cover it. I sat there stunned while a couple of the family friends exchanged glances. I told her that dragging family into court just to fund a luxury wedding was cruel. She accused me of not wanting her to be happy. She grabbed her things and stormed out, loudly blaming me for ruining her future before disappearing into the parking lot with her fiancé trailing behind. Later that evening, I started getting messages from distant cousins and old family friends. My sister had been talking, and it seemed someone had even shared my private information like my new address and workplace details, making it easier for gossip to spread. Private conversations I had with my parents earlier about my legal plans and the documentation somehow leaked and ended up circulating among relatives. It was clear my sister had been sharing them, framing me as the villain. By the end of the week, the extended family started taking sides. Some called me directly, hinting I should just settle and make peace. Others sent passive-aggressive messages about how life is too short to fight over money. My attorney advised me to expect a coordinated smear campaign. He told me to start documenting everything, every call, every text, every email. He said we would need a full timeline showing not just the facts about the land, but also the harassment tactics my sister and her supporters were starting to use against me. I backed up my phone. I saved screenshots. I kept copies of everything. I stopped answering calls unless they came from people I absolutely trusted. My girlfriend helped me sort through all the chaos. She said it was better to stay quiet and let the legal process speak for itself. After everything started spiraling with the family picking sides, I noticed my sister's car parked across the street from my house more than once. She would sit there for a while then drive off. The first couple of times, I tried to tell myself maybe it was just a coincidence. But when it happened 3 days in a row, I knew I needed to protect myself. I went out the next morning and bought a full set of high-quality security cameras. I spent the entire day installing them around the house, covering every possible angle, driveway, front door, backyard, even the alley behind my fence. The cameras went live just in time because that night, I got a text message from my sister. It was short, just a few words, but the threat was clear. She said she was going to make sure everyone sees the real you, and that exposure was coming soon. That was it for me. I immediately blocked her number. I blocked every single social media account she had. I went through and double-checked to make sure there were no gaps. After that, any future messages or contact attempts came only through unknown numbers or in-person encounters. 2 days later, she showed up at my workplace. Given her history of emotional outbursts during family arguments, it sadly did not surprise me when she marched straight into the building screaming my name in the middle of the lobby. She made a scene loud enough that security had to get involved. They escorted her out while she kept yelling about how I was a liar and a thief. It was humiliating. Within an hour, Human Resources called me into a meeting after reports surfaced from family connections who had leaked my workplace details. They explained that since the incident involved threats and disruptions on company property, they needed to file a formal report for workplace safety procedures. They assured me they were not blaming me for anything, but they needed full documentation in case she came back. They also recommended that I consider law enforcement options if the harassment continued. Before I could even think about next steps, my parents called. They heard about the incident through the family grapevine and begged me not to get the police involved. They said if I pressed charges, it would destroy my sister emotionally, and they just wanted things to calm down. I stayed polite but did not promise anything. They did not seem to understand that it was way past family drama now. This was about my safety. The next morning, my employer offered me temporary paid leave. They said it would be better for everyone if I took some time off while the situation cooled down. I agreed. It was clear that as long as my sister kept acting out, things were not going to stay peaceful. At my girlfriend's insistence, I packed a few bags and moved into her apartment across town for the time being. It was not ideal, but it felt safer. Her building had tight security, and her neighbors knew each other, so there were always extra sets of eyes around. A few days later, I went back to my house briefly to check on things and grab some more clothes. When I got there, I found 2 notes taped to my front door. They were not signed, but the handwriting was familiar. The notes were filled with threats, warning me to pay up before you lose everything. I photographed them, peeled them off carefully with gloves, and brought them straight to my attorney. By the end of the week, we had filed a restraining order against my sister. We cited the workplace incident, the repeated stalking near my house, and the threatening notes. My attorney moved quickly, making sure every single piece of evidence was properly filed. He told me to expect pushback, but the evidence was overwhelming. That same weekend, I got an unexpected call. It was my sister's fiancé. He was polite but sounded exhausted. He apologized for what was happening and said he had not even known about the lawsuit until after she filed it. He admitted he was reconsidering the entire engagement because of how vindictive she had become. He said he never imagined marrying into this level of chaos and did not know if he could deal with it long term. Meanwhile, my attorney filed a motion to dismiss my sister's entire case. He argued that she had no standing to claim any profits because she had abandoned the property for years and that her harassment tactics undermined her credibility in court. It was a strong move, but it also meant the conflict was hitting a new level. My mother called again after she heard about the motion. She cried on the phone, begging me to reconsider. She said dismissing the case would emotionally devastate my sister and begged me to find some other way. I stayed calm but made it clear that I was following my attorney's advice and protecting myself. While going through old storage boxes to find more documentation, I found something that could end everything. It was a set of archived emails from years ago. In those emails, my sister had clearly agreed in writing that I would handle all property management and keep any appreciation or proceeds because she was moving out of state and did not want anything to do with it. I sent copies to my attorney immediately. He told me they were like gold. If the case went to trial, those emails alone could destroy her lawsuit. The court moved fast once everything was filed. Within a few weeks, a date was set for the preliminary hearing. Getting that notice in the mail made it official. There was no escaping it anymore. This was not going to fizzle out. It was going to court, and everyone was going to see it happen. Right after the hearing was scheduled, my sister filed a fresh complaint against me. She was now accusing me of fraudulent concealment, claiming I intentionally hid the rising value of the land from her over the years. My attorney was ready. He prepared a full response, showing that she had willingly refused to engage with anything about the land. He attached the old emails where she agreed to walk away from any future profits. He reminded the court that she had made it clear in writing that she wanted no involvement at all. Meanwhile, I started hearing rumors that some family members had created a private group chat. I was not invited, obviously. The group's purpose was to come up with ways to pressure me into settling before the case got public. They talked about staging a family intervention, about having multiple relatives visit me at once to guilt me into dropping the lawsuit. They also floated the idea of threatening to cut me off socially if I did not cooperate. I would not have even known about it if one of my aunts had not decided she had seen enough. She took screenshots of the messages and sent them to me quietly. She told me she did not agree with what they were doing and wanted me to be prepared. A few days later, I had a private conversation with my parents. I confronted them about the group chat. I asked them why they were standing by while my sister turned the entire family into weapons against me. My mother started crying, repeating the same lines about wanting everyone together for holidays. She said she did not care about who was right or wrong. She just wanted the family whole again. My father stayed quiet, refusing to take any side out loud. While all this was happening, my sister kept posting online. She put up carefully edited videos painting herself as a victim. She told vague stories about betrayal, about being robbed by someone close to her. She never mentioned my name directly, but everyone who knew us understood exactly what she was doing. Strangers started flooding her post with supportive comments. People she had never met were calling her brave for fighting injustice. To give me a break, my girlfriend's parents invited us to celebrate the next few holidays with them. They wanted to give me a peaceful space away from all the drama. I accepted. I figured it would be good to get out of town for a while. Then my attorney called with more news. My sister's legal team had filed a subpoena demanding access to my personal bank statements. They were accusing me of embezzling money from the land profits, money that did not even exist because I had been paying into the property, not taking anything from it. My attorney immediately filed a motion to quash the subpoena. He pointed out that it was a baseless fishing expedition meant to harass me and drag my name through the mud. The judge agreed and shut it down quickly. Frustrating my sister's side, that did not stop her from escalating again. She updated her complaint, now demanding punitive damages in addition to her original claims. She argued that the emotional suffering she had experienced because of the lawsuit deserved financial compensation. It was obvious at this point, she was just throwing anything she could think of at the wall to see what might stick. At the next court hearing, the judge had enough. He issued a stern warning to my sister's attorney about wasting the court's time with irrelevant motions. He said he would not tolerate any more delays or baseless accusations moving forward. You could feel the mood shift in the courtroom after that. After the hearing, something unexpected happened. A few extended family members who had initially taken my sister's side reached out privately. They apologized for believing her version without hearing mine. They said after seeing how aggressive and messy the case had become, they realized something was not adding up. Some of them had even stumbled across the old emails my sister sent me because my attorney submitted them into the public case records. The apology messages were nice, but I kept my distance. I knew better than to trust anyone too quickly. Despite everything, the threats, the harassment, the social attacks, I decided I was not going to back down. I made up my mind that I was going to see this through to the end. No settling. No walking away. If she wanted a war, she was going to get one. I was ready to take this all the way to trial. The first real shift in momentum happened a few weeks after the court hearing. News started spreading through the family that my sister's fiancé had called off their engagement. Word was he could not handle the constant lawsuits, family fights, and her obsession with tearing everything down. Some said he packed up his things and moved out almost overnight, leaving my sister blindsided. Almost immediately, my sister's anger turned back toward me. She started posting even more online, blaming me for destroying her future and costing her everything she had worked for. She never mentioned my name directly, but the references were obvious enough that anyone who knew the situation could connect the dots. In the posts, my sister was claiming that I stole inheritance money and used it to live a lavish lifestyle while she struggled. She accused me of manipulating our late grandfather and hoarding resources meant for both of us. It was a complete lie, and my attorney moved fast. Within a day, my attorney sent a formal cease and desist letter to her lawyer, demanding that my sister stop spreading false and defamatory statements immediately. The letter warned that if she continued, we would pursue further legal action for defamation alongside the existing lawsuit. Instead of backing down, my sister doubled down. A few days later, 2 police officers showed up at my girlfriend's apartment where I had been staying. They explained that my sister had filed a report claiming I had threatened her safety. After a short and polite conversation, the officers apologized. They said the report had no real evidence attached, and after a basic review of texts, call logs, and my security footage from the night she claimed I had harassed her, they found no grounds to move forward. They closed the complaint the same day. Even though the false report went nowhere, I knew I needed to stay alert. I upgraded my home security system again, adding stronger locks and better outdoor lighting. I installed additional hidden cameras to catch anything that might happen around my property in case she or anyone connected to her decided to show up again. At the next court appearance, my attorney brought up the bogus police report. The judge was not impressed. He issued another formal warning to my sister's attorney about filing or encouraging frivolous claims. He made it clear that wasting court resources would not be tolerated. Around the same time, some of my old childhood friends started reaching out. They had seen the posts, the gossip, the drama spreading through mutual acquaintances. They asked what was happening and why things had gotten so ugly. I explained the situation without going into too much detail, and most of them were shocked that it had escalated this far. Not wanting to let everything be about court dates and accusations, my girlfriend organized a quiet birthday celebration for me. We invited only close friends, the ones who had proven they were not interested in gossip or picking sides. We had dinner, played games, and for the first time in a while, I felt like there was still some normalcy left. The day of the deposition arrived, and I knew it was going to be tense before I even walked into the building. My sister showed up flanked by our mother and 2 of her closest friends. They marched into the waiting area together like they were trying to make a point, taking up space and whispering loudly while glaring at me across the room. I kept my focus on my attorney and stayed out of it. Once we were all seated, the court reporter turned on the recorder, and questioning began. It did not take long for the drama to start. Within the first few questions, my sister started crying, refusing to answer even basic things like whether she had ever paid property taxes. She kept wiping her eyes dramatically and asking for breaks. Every time the questioning pressed a little harder, she stalled, cried harder, or claimed confusion about the simplest things. My attorney stayed patient. He methodically pulled out every signed agreement we had, laying them out one by one. He showed where my sister had agreed in writing that she did not want to be involved in the property and would not expect any profits later. The documents were clear, and she could not explain them away. After a few hours of slow, painful back and forth, the cracks started to show. Under pressure, my sister accidentally admitted that she had never paid a single cent toward taxes, repairs, or any upkeep costs on the land. She tried to backpedal, but it was too late. Her admission was on record. As questioning continued, she blurted out something that shocked even her own attorney. She confessed that the whole reason she filed the lawsuit was because she needed money to fund her wedding. The wedding that had already been cancelled. She admitted it was about desperation, not about being wronged. The room went dead silent after that. At one point, when she realized how badly the deposition was going, she tried changing her story mid-question. The judge overseeing the deposition was present via video call and immediately stepped in, sternly reminding her about the consequences of perjury. She sat frozen for a moment, then mumbled that she needed another break. I stayed calm throughout the entire session, letting my legal team run the show. I kept my hands folded, kept my expression neutral, and stayed silent unless my attorney needed a quick clarification from me. I knew any emotional reaction could be twisted against me later, so I gave them nothing. After the deposition finally ended, her attorney approached my side quietly. He asked if we would be willing to discuss mediation to avoid going through a public trial. It was obvious they knew how badly the day had gone for them. My attorney looked at me, but I did not even hesitate. I told him no. I was not going to settle behind closed doors. I wanted everything to come out in the open the right way. While preparing final case files with my attorney, we found something that made our case even stronger. Hidden deep in some older paperwork, there were records where my sister had on multiple occasions declared the inherited land as not her asset when applying for financial aid years ago. It was not just verbal denial. It was documented under oath for official government forms. This completely undermined her current claims that she had a rightful stake she had somehow been robbed of. The night before the trial, things took a darker turn. Around 11 at night, my sister showed up at my house. In the past, she had struggled to control her temper. And that night, she started screaming at the top of her lungs, calling me every name she could think of, accusing me of destroying her life. She pounded on the door, demanded I come out, and shouted threats loud enough for all the neighbors to hear. I refused to engage. I did not open the door. I did not even respond. I simply stayed inside and let the security cameras record everything. Within 15 minutes, multiple neighbors called the police. Officers arrived and separated her from the property. She was formally warned to stay away from me and my home or risk arrest. She left still yelling but had no choice but to comply. First thing the next morning, my attorney filed an emergency motion to include the late-night disturbance as part of our pretrial harassment evidence. He argued it showed a pattern of intimidation and emotional manipulation designed to influence the case outside of legal boundaries. The morning of the trial, the courthouse parking lot was already packed. Family members who had not spoken to me in months showed up. Journalists with notepads and cameras hovered near the entrance. Random spectators who had heard about the case took seats in the gallery. It felt like the entire world was watching. When the trial officially opened, my sister's legal team wasted no time. They painted her as the innocent younger sibling, manipulated and cheated out of her rightful share of the family property by an older brother who was supposed to protect her. They leaned heavily on emotional language, trying to stir sympathy without presenting much hard evidence. When it was our turn, my attorney walked the jury through years of financial records. He laid out the property, taxes I had paid, the repair invoices I had covered, the insurance premiums I had maintained alone. He showed that my sister had not contributed a single cent since the land was inherited. Every document was time-stamped, notarized, and connected to a clear timeline. Then came witness testimony. An old family friend who had known us since childhood took the stand. She explained that I had openly maintained the land for years, often inviting family members, including my sister, to participate in decisions or help with upkeep. She confirmed that my sister always declined, saying she had no interest in that dead old place. My sister testified next. She tried to claim under oath that she had been blocked from accessing the property, saying I had locked her out and refused to tell her about its value. My attorney immediately produced security footage, timestamps, maintenance logs, and a long trail of text messages showing she was never once denied access. She simply chose not to be involved. Under cross-examination, she struggled. She contradicted herself multiple times. She claimed she had visited the land several times a year, but the gate logs and neighbor testimony showed she had not stepped foot there once in almost a decade. The pressure built until she broke down crying in the witness box, unable to keep her story straight. Jurors exchanged glances. A few whispered to each other, eyebrows raised. Next, our forensic accountant testified. He explained exactly how my personal investments had preserved and even improved the value of the land. Without upkeep, the property would have been seized by the county for unpaid taxes or left to rot. He showed in simple language that any increase in value was the direct result of my consistent efforts over years of work. The final blow came when my parents testified. My attorney asked simple direct questions. They admitted that I had handled all property responsibilities without asking them or my sister for money. They admitted that my sister had repeatedly told them she had no interest in the land. After that, my attorney submitted video evidence, clips from my sister's social media, where she had bragged openly about using the lawsuit money to pay for her dream wedding. The videos played on a large screen for the courtroom to see. Her plan was no longer a rumor. It was her own words captured for everyone to hear. During her second round of cross-examination, my sister snapped. She lashed out, shouting across the courtroom, accusing me of betrayal, greed, and destroying the family. The outburst stunned everyone. The judge banged his gavel and had to raise his voice to restore order. He warned my sister's attorney sharply about the lack of control and the disrespect shown to the court. Throughout all of it, I stayed composed. I sat still, hands folded, watching the facts do the work. I made no outbursts, no gestures, no reactions. Every calm minute that passed seemed to strengthen my standing in front of the jury. Once all the testimony wrapped up, both sides delivered closing arguments. My sister's attorney tried to scrape together what was left of her emotional appeal. My attorney stood and calmly recapped the hard evidence, documents, timelines, witnesses, videos, financials. No speculation, no accusations, just proof. When the closing arguments ended, the judge announced that the jury would return with a verdict the following morning. The trial recessed, and we all filed out of the courtroom in silence. It was almost over now. No more waiting. No more accusations shouted online. No more backroom rumors twisting the truth. Tomorrow would bring the answer, and everything would finally come into the light.